Oh my God. Hi. Hello. Hi. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is part two of what we did this morning. I'm finally home, y'all. It is 9:45. I thought I was gonna make a video at like 6 and then do another one at 9, but it's okay. It's 9:45 and we're gonna finish day 10 of this series. I think it's or 11. One of those. 10 or 11. I don't know. But we're gonna finish part two because I couldn't get all through it before work this morning. So we are gonna go from Numbers. It's gonna be chapter 17 through 22. So 17 through 22. Okay. Okay. So oh my gosh, wow. I'm so grateful. Okay. So it says, the Lord said to Moses, speak to the Israelites and get 12 staffs from them, one from the leader of each of their ancestral tribes. Write the name of each man on his staff. On the staff of Levi, write Aaron's name, for there must be one staff for the head of each ancestral tribe. Place them in the tent of meeting in front of the testimony where I meet you. The staff belonging to the man I choose will sprout, and I will rid myself of this constant grumbling against you by the Israelites. So Moses spoke to the Israelites, and their leaders gave him 12 staffs, one for the leaders of each of the ancestral tribes, and Aaron's staff was among them. Moses placed the staffs before the Lord in the tent of the testimony. The next day Moses entered the tent of the testimony and saw that Aaron's staff, which represented the house of Levi, had not only sprouted but had budded, blossomed, and produced almonds. Then Moses brought out all the staffs from the Lord's presence to the Israelites. They looked at them, and each man took his own staff. The Lord said to Moses, put back Aaron's staff in front of the testimony to be kept as a sign to the rebellious. This will put an end to their grumbling against me so they will not die. Moses did just as the Lord commanded him. The Israelites said to Moses, we will die. We are lost. Anyone who even comes near the tabernacle of the Lord will die. Are we all going to die? This is just I think this just symbolizes, again, that God has chosen them and that you just don't mess with the chosen, because not only, like, I don't know a lot about gardening, but not only did it, sprout or whatever, bud and blossom, but it produced almonds, right? It produced fruit. Whatever God blesses will produce fruit. And so when we look at each other, or you try to judge, or, see, like, what type of leader you want to be under, or, who you should be following, look to see if they're producing fruit, whether that fruit be, love, peace, money, whatever type of resources. Like, it should be producing some type of fruit because it's from God. So I'm going to say people / things that are blessed by God produce fruit. Chapter 18. The Lord said to Aaron, you, your sons, and your family, and your father's family are to bear the responsibility for offenses against the sanctuary, and you and your sons alone are to bear the responsibility for offenses against the priesthood. Bring your fellow Levites from your ancestral tribe to join you and assist you when you and your sons minister before the tent of testimony. They are to be responsible to you and are to perform all the duties of the tent, but they must not go near the furnishings of the sanctuary or the altar, or both. Both they and you will die. They are to join you and be responsible for the care of the tent of meeting, all the work at the tent, and no one else may come near where you are. You are to be responsible for the care of the sanctuary and the altar, so that wrath will not fall on the Israelites again. I myself have selected your fellow Levites among the Israelites as a gift to you, dedicated to the Lord to do the work of the tent of the meeting. But only you and your sons may serve as priests in connection with everything at the altar and inside the curtain. I am giving you the service of priesthood as a gift. Anyone else who comes near the sanctuary must be put to death. So then it says The Lord then said to Aaron, I myself put you in charge of the offerings presented to me. All of the holy offerings the Israelites give to me, I give to you and your sons as a portion of the regular share. You are to have part of the most holy offerings that is kept from the fire. All the gifts that they bring to me are most holy offerings, whether grain or sin or guilt offerings. That part belongs to you and your sons. Eat it as the most holy. Every male shall eat it. You must regard it as holy. This is also yours. Whatever is set aside from the gifts of the wave offerings of the Israelites, I give this to you and your sons and to the daughters your regular share. Everyone in your household who is ceremonially clean may eat it. I give you the finest olive oil and all the finest new wine and grain they give to the Lord as the first fruits of their harvest. All the land's first fruits that they bring to the Lord will be yours. Everyone in your household who is ceremonially clean may eat it. Everything in Israel that is devoted to the Lord is yours. The first offspring of every womb, both man and animal that is offered to the Lord is yours. But you must redeem every firstborn and every firstborn male of the unclean animals. Um, when they are a month old, you must redeem them as at the redemption price set at 5 shekels of silver, according to the sanctuary shekel, which weighs 20 gerahs. But you must not redeem the firstborn of an ox, a sheep, a goat. They are holy. Sprinkle their blood on the altar and burn their fat as an offering made by fire, an aroma pleasing to the Lord. Their meat is to be yours, just as the breast of the wave offering and the right thigh are yours. Whatever is set aside from the holy offerings the Israelites present to the Lord, I give to you and your sons and your daughters as your regular share. It is an everlasting covenant of salt before the Lord for you, for both you and your offspring. The Lord said to Aaron, you will have no inheritance in their land, nor will you have any share among them. I am your share and your inheritance among the Israelites. I give the Levites all the tithes in Israel and in their inheritance in return for their work they do while serving in the tent of meeting. From now the Israelites must not go near the tent of meeting, or they will bear the consequences of their sin and will die. It is the Levites who are to do the work at the tent of meeting and bear the responsibility for offenses against it. This is the lasting ordinance for the generations to come. They will receive no inheritance among the Israelites. Instead, I give to the Levites as their inheritance the tithes that the Israelites present as an offering to the Lord. That is why I said concerning them, they will have no inheritance among the Israelites. The Lord said to Moses, speak to the Levites and say to them, when you receive from the Israelites the tithe that I give to you as your inheritance, you must present a tenth of that tithe as the Lord's offering. Your offering will be reckoned to you as a grain from the threshing floor or juices from the wine press. In this way, you also will present an offering to the Lord from all the tithes you receive from the Israelites. From these tithes you must give to the Lord's portion to Aaron the priest. You must present as the Lord's portion the best and the holiest part of everything given to you. Say to the Levites, when you present the best part, it will be reckoned with you as a product of the threshing floor or the winepress. You and your households may eat the rest of it anywhere, for it is your wages for your work at the tent of meeting. By presenting the best part of it, you will not be guilty in this matter. Then you will not defy the holy offerings of the Israelites, and you will not die. So what I hear is God is saying, you don't, well, first off, they get to eat, the offerings or whatever. They may not have the land, but what does it say? They won't be able, they don't, and verse 20 says, you will not have inheritance of their land, or you have a share among them. I am your share and I'm your inheritance among the Israelites. So they might not have the material things, but they have like God himself as the inheritance. And I think we have to see and view we have to view serving God and doing his work as a blessing in itself. We have to see it as a blessing in itself, because we just get to experience the presence of God. Everybody doesn't get to experience the presence of God. Everybody doesn't get to see his face. because I know everybody doesn't seek his face all the time, but we have to see it as just like a blessing. It's such a blessing to be graced by God's his presence and his mercy and his love. So we just have to, we just have to be grateful for that. So it says the water of cleansing. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, this is a requirement of the law that the Lord commanded. Tell the Israelites to bring you a red heifer without defect or blemish that has never been under yoke. Give it to Eleazar, the priest. It is to be taken outside the camp and slaughtered in his presence. Then Eleazar, the priest, is to take some of its blood on his finger and sprinkle it 7 times towards the tent of meeting. While he watches, the heifer is to be burned, its hide, its flesh, its blood, and its offal. It says the priest is to take some cedar wood, hyssop, scarlet wool, and throw them into the burning heifer. After that, the priest must wash his clothes and bathe himself with water. He may then come into the camp, but he will be ceremonially unclean until the evening. That man who burns it must also wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he too will be unclean until evening. A man who is clean shall gather up all the ashes of the heifer and put them in a ceremonially clean place outside the camp. They shall be kept by the Israelite community for use in the water of cleansing. It is for purification for sin. The man who gathers up the ashes of the heifer must also wash his clothes, and he too will be unclean until the evening. Sorry. What? Where's the evening? Oh, this will be the lasting ordinance for both the Israelites and for the aliens living among them. Whoever touches the dead body of anyone will be unclean for 7 days. He must purify himself with water on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day, then he will be clean. But if he doesn't purify himself on the 3rd and 7th day, he will not be clean. Whoever touches the dead body of anyone and fails to purify himself defiles the Lord's tabernacle. The person must be cut off from Israel. Because the water of the cleansing has not been sprinkled on him, he is unclean, and his uncleanliness remains on him. This is the law that applies when a person dies in the tent. Anyone who enters the tent and anyone who is in it will be unclean for 7 days. And every open container without a lid fastened on it will be unclean. Anyone out in the open who touches someone who's been killed with a sword, or somebody who has died a natural death, or anyone who touches a human bone or a grave will be unclean for 7 days. For the unclean person, put some ashes from the burnt purification offering in a jar and pour fresh water over them. Then a man who is ceremonially clean is to take a hyssop, dip it in water, or hyssop, I don't know how to pronounce it. Dip it in water and sprinkle the tent and all the furnishings and the people who are there. He must also sprinkle anyone who has touched the human bone or a grave, or someone who has been killed, or someone who has died a natural death. The man who is clean is to sprinkle the unclean person on the 3rd day, and on the 3rd and 7th days, and on the 7th day he is to purify him. The person being cleansed must wash his clothes and bathe with water that evening, and he will be clean. But if a person who was unclean does not purify himself, he must be cut off from the community because he defiled the sanctuary of the Lord. The water of the cleansing has not been sprinkled on him. If the water of the cleansing has not been sprinkled on him, he is unclean. This is a lasting ordinance for them. The man who sprinkles the water of the cleansing must also wash his clothes, and anyone who touches the water of the cleansing will be unclean till evening. Anything that an unclean person touches becomes unclean, and anyone who touches it becomes unclean till evening. Now I know that's a lot of like rules, regulation. This leave what is it? Leviticus and Numbers has like a lot of rules and regulations and policies. But I think that it's really important to read because it just shows how gracious and merciful that Jesus is, and how he died for us, and like how we don't have to go through all of these offerings and killing of animals and going through priests. Like, it's just such a blessing to be able to go to God ourselves and not have to go to God through somebody else. I think that's awesome. So I'm gonna say the rules slash traditions. I'm gonna say traditions, not rules. The traditions in the old, what is this? I almost said testimony. Testament show us how gracious and merciful God is. Praise God. We don't have to do all this. Wow. Water from the rock. What am I doing? Hold on. Water. So it says, in the first month of the whole Israelite community arrived at the desert of Zin, and they stayed at Kadesh, where Miriam died and was buried. Now there was no water for the community, and the people gathered in opposition to Moses and Aaron. Again, they quarreled with Moses and said, if only we had died when our brothers fell dead before the Lord. Why did you bring the Lord's community to this desert where we and our livestock should die here? Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to this terrible place? It has no grains or figs, grapevines or pomegranates, and there is no water to drink. Moses and Aaron went from the assembly to the entrance of the tent of meeting and fell face down, and the glory of the Lord appeared to them. The Lord said to Moses, take the staff, and you and your brother Aaron gather the assembly together. Speak to that rock before their eyes, and it will pour out its water. You will bring out water out of the rock for the community, so they and their livestock can drink. So Moses took the staff from the Lord's presence just as he commanded. He and Aaron gathered the assembly together in front of the rock, and Moses said to them, listen, you rebels, must we bring you water out of this rock? And then Moses raised his arm and struck the rock twice with his staff. Water gushed out, and the community and their livestock drank. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, because you did not trust in me enough to honor me as holy in the sight of the Israelites, you will not bring the community into the land I give to them. These were the waters of Meribah, where the Israelites quarreled with the Lord and where he showed himself holy among them. Okay. Moses said to the messengers of Kadesh to the king of Edom, saying, this is what your brother Israel says. You know about the hardships that have come upon us. Our forefathers went to Egypt, and we lived there many years. The Egyptians mistreated us and our fathers, but when we cried out to the Lord, he heard our cry and sent an angel and brought us out of Egypt. Now we are here in Kadesh, a town on the edge of your territory. Please let us pass through your country. We will not go through any field or vineyard or drink water from any well. We will travel along the king's highway and not turn to the right or to the left until we've passed your territory. But Edom answered, you may not pass through here. If you try, we will march you out and attack you with the sword. The Israelites replied, we will go along the main road, and if we or our livestock drink any of your water, we will pay for it. We only want to pass through on foot, nothing else. Again they answered, you may not pass through. Then Edom came against them with a large, powerful army, and since Edom refused to let them go to the territory, Israel turned away from them. The whole Israelite community set out from Kadesh and came to Mount Hor. At Mount Or, near the border of Edom, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, Aaron will be gathered to his people, and he will not enter the land that I've given the Israelites, because both of you rebelled against my command at the waters of the Meribah. Get Aaron and his son Eleazar and take them to Mount Or. Remove Aaron's garments and put them on his son Eleazar, for Aaron will be gathered to his people, and he will die there. Moses did as the Lord commanded, and they went up to Mount Or in the sight of the whole community. Moses removed Aaron's garments and put them into his son Eleazar, and Aaron died up there on the top of the mountain. Then Moses and Eleazar came down from the mountain. When the whole community learned that Aaron died, the entire house of Israel mourned for him for 30 days. Now, this is always like a harder story for me to read, because it's like it's so tough. It's so tough when God blesses you for you to stay humble and to like remember that it's God and not you, because that's really the reason why God took his blessing. Like, that's the reason why he didn't let Aaron and Moses enter the land, because when Moses struck the rock, he struck the rock not glorifying God, but he struck the rock as if it was him producing the water, or him blessing the rock to produce the water. And so I just think that just is like a reminder that we have to understand that it's God that's behind everything that we do, and like behind all the blessings. Well, not everything, because not the negative, but like the blessings that we get, and the grace and the mercy and the love, and like the job, the offers, the finances, the cars. Like, God is behind all of those things, and we have to remember to keep him first, and to not ever think that it's us that's producing, you know, these blessings. Another thing that I want to point out is that um I like we've seen this before, where God covered Adam and Eve even after they sinned and they were naked. And God, um he, covered Cain when he killed his brother, and he said, anybody who gets vengeance on you, I'll get vengeance on them 7 times over. And um he just covered, different people throughout the Bible, right? Even if they did things wrong. But it's just interesting, because every time they grumble against the Lord, God still blesses them. And so what happens, I wonder what would happen if they just asked, like, Lord, please just rain down your blessings on us. Or like, Lord, I'm uncomfortable in this season, Father God, please, show me what you want me to learn from it, but like, comfort me in this area, or like, send me some money, or send me, a lover, or send me, you know what I'm saying? Like, how how we ask changes God's delivery, because I don't think it would. I feel like if they would have just asked and said, God, you're the same God who provided food from the ground, and you're the same God who delivered us. Like, can we please have this? I feel like God would have just easily gave it to them, and they would have been able to go into the promised land, because they believed in God. And so I think it's just, I know it's easier to say, but when we are lacking in something, we should really just ask God for it, because God gave it to them, and they were being, rebellious and rude and a little inconsiderate. So for 20, I must be racing almost wrong. For 20, I'm gonna put be careful not to think that we/me provides blessings, when in fact it's God. What else do we say? Ask. Ask. We don't have to complain or grumble against others. Okay. All right. So when the Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in Negev, heard that Israel was coming along the road to Atharium, he attacked the Israelites and captured some of them. Then Israelites made a vow to the Lord, if you would deliver these people into our hands, we will totally destroy their cities. The Lord listened to Israel's plea and gave the Canaanites over to them, and they completely destroyed them and their towns. So the place was named Hormah. Wow. We were just talking about asking God. Wow. So it says they traveled from Mount Or until along the route to the Red Sea to go around Edom. But the people grew impatient on their way, and they spoke against God and against Moses. The people grew impatient on their way. Don't grow impatient on your journey. They spoke against God and against Moses, and they said, why have you brought us out of Egypt to die in the desert? There is no bread, there is no water, and we detest this miserable food. Then the Lord sent venomous snakes among them, and they bit the people, and many of the Israelites died. The people came to Moses and said, "We sinned when we spoke against the Lord and against you. Pray that the Lord will take the snakes away from us." So Moses prayed for the people. The Lord said to Moses, "Make a snake and put it on a pole. Anyone who is bitten can look at it and live." So Moses said, so Moses made the bronze snake and put it up on the pole. When anyone was bitten by a snake and looked to the bronze snake, he lived. Um, the Israelites moved on and camped at Abath. They set out from Abath and camped in Abarim, in the desert that faces Moab towards the sunrise. From there, they moved to the camp of the Zered Valley. They set out from there and camped alongside Arnon, which was the desert extending to the Amorite territory. The Arnon is the border between the border of Moab between Moab and the Amorites. That is why the book of the wars of the Lord says, Waheb and Sapah and the ravines and the Arnon and the slope of the ravines lead to the side of Ar and lie along the border of Moab. Sorry, that was a little choppy. From there, they continued on to Beer. From the well where the Lord said to Moses, "Gather the people together, and I will give them water." Then Israel sang the song, "Spring up, O well, sing about it, about the well that the princes dug, that the nobles of the people sank, and the nobles of the scepters and the staff." Then they went from the desert to Matana to Nahaliel, from Nahaliel to Bamoth, and from Bamoth to the valley in Moab, where the top of the Pisgah overlooks the wasteland. The Israelites sent to the messengers to say to Sihon, king of the Amorites, "Let us pass through your country. We will not turn aside any field or vineyard or drink any well from any well. We will travel along the king's highway until we pass through your territory." But Sihon would not let Israel pass through his territory. He mustered his entire army and marched to the desert against Israel. When he reached Ahaz, he fought with Israel. Israel, however, put him to the sword and took over his land from Arnon to the Jabbok, but only as far as the Ammonites because their border was fortified. The Israel captured all the cities of the Amorites and occupied them, including Heshbon and all the surrounding settlements. Heshbon was a city of Sihon and king of the Amorites who had fought against the former king of Moab and taken him and his land as far as the Arnon. This is what the poets say: "Come to Heshbon and let it be rebuilt. Let Sihon's city be restored." Fire went out from Heshbon, a blaze from the city of Sihon, and it consumed Ar of Moab, the citizens of the Arnon heights. Woe to you, O Moab! You are destroyed, O people of Chemosh. He has given up his sons as fugitives and his daughters as captives to Sihon, king of the Amorites. But we have overthrown them. Heshbon is destroyed all the way down to Dibon. We have demolished them for as far as Nopah, which extends to Medapah. So Israel settled in the land of the Amorites. After Moses had sent spies to Jazer, the Israelites captured its surrounding settlements and drove out the Amorites who were there. But then he turned and went along the road towards Bashan, and the Og, king of Bashan, and his whole army marched out to meet them at the battle of the Edrei. The Lord said to Moses, "Do not be afraid of him, for I have handed him over to you with his whole army and his land. Do to him what you did to the Sihon, king of Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon." So they struck him down together with his sons and his whole army, leaving them no survivors, and they took possession of his land. So we're starting to see, I mean, if you've read the Bible, you know that, there's stories in the Bible of God blessing an army to take over other places, but we're starting to see that early. And I think it's interesting because this is after a lot of people have died from, rebelling against God because, God sent the snakes. And so a lot of people have died, so they have less numbers, but they're still doing great things because it's God who's doing them. So I'm going to put quality duh. And I'll put God. And then I'll put over quantity. I'm going to put this is a foreshadowing of, or a preview of how God protects his armies. Boom. Boom. So then it says, this is the last chapter. It says, then the Israelites traveled to the plains of Moab and camped along the Jordan across from the Jericho. Also Balak, son of Zippor, saw that Israel had done to the Amorites, and Moab was terrified because there were so many people. Indeed, Moab was filled with dread because of the Israelites. The Moabites said to the elders of Midian, this horde is going to lick up everything around us as the ox licks up the grass of the field. So Balak, son of Zippor, who was the king of Moab at the time, sent messengers to summon Balaam, son of Beor, and who was at Pethor near the river in his native land. Balak said, a people have come out of Egypt. They cover the face of the land that has settled next to me. Now come and put a curse on these people because they are too powerful for me. Perhaps then I'll be able to defeat them and drive them out of the country. For I know that those who are blessed, those you bless are blessed, and those you curse are cursed. So Balak, okay, so the king of Moab, I'm pretty sure I'm following that the king of Moab, so he sent messengers to summon Balaam to the Beor and said, okay, so basically somebody who doesn't believe in God is trying to get blessed. The elders of Moab and Midian left, taking with them the fee for the divination. When they came to Balaam, they told him what Balak said. It says, spend the night here, Balaam said, and I will bring you your answer from the Lord. So the Moabite princes stayed with them. God came to Balaam and said, who are these men with you? Balaam said to the Lord, Balak, son of Zippor, king of Moab, sent me this message. A people have come out of Egypt, covered the face of the land, and now they come put a curse on me. Perhaps I'll be able to fight them and drive them away. But God said to Balaam, do not go with them. You must not put a curse on this people because they are blessed. Duh, because they're God's people. So the next morning, Balaam got up and said to Balak's princes, go back to your own country. The Lord has refused to let me go with you. So the Moabite princes returned to Balak and said, Balaam refused to come with us. Then Balak sent other princes, more numerous and more distinguished than the first. And they came to Balaam and said, this is what Balak, son of Zippor, says. Do not let anything keep you from coming to me, because I will reward you handsomely and do whatever you say. Come and put a curse on these people for me. So he's basically saying, I'll buy a blessing, basically, because he wants him to bless him, put a curse on them. But Balaam answered them, even if Balak gave me his palace filled with silver and gold, I cannot do anything great or small to go beyond the command of the Lord my God. Now stay here tonight as the others did, and I will find out else what the Lord tells me. So that night God came to Balaam and said, since these men have come to summon you, go with them, but do only what I tell you. Balaam got up, or Balaam, I want to do Balaam, but I'm going to say Balaam. Balaam got up in the morning, saddled his donkey, and went to the princes of Moab. But God was very angry when he went, and the angel of the Lord stood in the road to oppose him. Balaam was riding on his donkey, and his two servants were with him. When the donkey saw that the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand, she turned off the road into a field. Balaam beat her to get her back on the road. Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path between two vineyards with walls on both sides. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she pressed close to the wall, crushing Balaam's foot against it. So he beat her again. Then the angel of the Lord moved on ahead and stood in a narrow place where there was no room to turn, either right or the left. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she lay down under Balaam, and he was angry, and he beat her with his staff. Then the Lord opened the donkey's mouth, and she said to Balaam, what have I done to you to make you beat me 3 times? Balaam answered the donkey, you have made a fool of me. If I had a sword in my hand, I would kill you right now. Then the donkey said to Balaam, am I not your own donkey, which you have always ridden to this day? Have I been in the habit of doing things to you? He said, no. Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with with his sword drawn. So he bowed low and fell face down. The angel of the Lord asked him, "Why have you beaten your donkey these 3 times? I've come here to oppose you because the path is reckless one before me. The donkey saw me and turned away from me these 3 times. If she had not turned away, I would have certainly killed you by now. But I would have spared her." Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, "I have sinned, and I did not realize that you were standing in the road to oppose me. Now, if you are displeased, I will go back." The angel of the Lord said to Balaam, "Go with these men, but speak only what I tell you." So Balaam went to the princes of Balak. Sorry. When Balak heard that Balaam was coming, he came out to meet him at the Moabite town on the Arnon border at the edge of his territory. Balak said to Balaam, "Did I not send you an urgent summon? Did I not summon you urgently? Why didn't you come to me? Am I really not able to reward you?" "Well, I have come to you now," Balaam replied. But can I say just anything? I must only speak what God puts in my mouth." Says then Balaam went to Balak to Kiriath Huzoth. Balak sacrificed a cattle and a sheep and gave some to Balaam and the princes who were with him. The next morning, Balak took Balaam up to Bamoth Baal, and from there he saw part of the people. So that is 22. So wow. Okay, this is what I wanted to. Hey, oh my gosh, hey girl. This is what I wanted to say about that. So a lot of times people say, like, I don't know if God is speaking to me. I don't know if God's speaking to me. Like, I don't know if this is like the path that I should be on. But here, even through like a donkey, so you have to think of like normal days. Like, what does your day normally look like? What do your parents normally say? What do you normally do? Like, think of your ordinary day and then think of those disruptions, right? Because here um it says in verse 28, it says, "Then the Lord opened the donkey's mouth, and she said to Balaam, 'What have I done to make you bid me these 3 times?' And then the donkey said, 'Am I not your own donkey, which you have always ridden on this day? Have I been in the habit of doing this to you?'" And so this donkey that he always rides never disobeys, never goes, out of line, always is on the path, but something obviously is making this donkey behave in a different manner. So when you are trying to seek God, of course it's important to fast, of course it's important to pray, but for you to really like know what the signs are, I would suggest that you look at your day, like your day-to-day, lifestyle and like what you do every day, and then start looking at different disruptions. Like maybe somebody texts you randomly, maybe somebody calls you randomly, maybe somebody stops you on the street to talk to you, maybe you just go visit a different church and they speak to something that the Lord's already been telling you. So that is the conclusion of that. So that was part 2 of that. Tomorrow, I'm going to be working from home tomorrow, so praise God. So tomorrow I will be on, I'm going to say around 6:30, 7-ish, and then I'm going to try to be on again around 9 because I don't think I have anything to do tomorrow night. So I'm going to be around like 8 or 9. I'm going to try to get this more consistent 2 times a day. So thank you so much for watching. I love you, sis. And I will see y'all tomorrow. Mwah.